Chad Walquist. I'm an architect here at Palantir. Today, I have Alex Gottwald with me. Thanks for joining me.
Great to be here. Thanks, Chad.
So, what do you do at Palantir? How long you been here?
I lead our telecom practice. I've been at Palantir for 3.5 years now.
Yeah. So, telecom, like, what does that mean? Like, what type of problems are you solving?
Yeah, solving all different types of problems across the business, whether it's field ops, supply chain, network, all different parts of the org.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it's not just what I think about in my head of like, oh, telecom, my phone, or my internet service. It's like the whole business, the operations, everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And all different types of businesses too. So we're working with the wireless carriers that I'm sure you're familiar with, the different fiber codes as well, cable companies, telecom REITs, all these different types of organizations.
Yeah, and I think, that's a lot. It's a wide swath of, I think, of just like the United States and the world of like the physical space that these telecommunications are communicating across is massive. So that means they have assets everywhere. Some probably brand new, some 40, 50 years old. How do you manage all that? I mean, that's got to be hyper complex.
Well, I think you said it well, right? Telecom is critical infrastructure now, right? And I do think particularly Palantir, as we look to be very extremely ambitiously pro-West, right?
Yep.
Protecting that critical infrastructure is incredibly important as well. But how our software is deployed, it's developing the ontology, mapping out these complex webs of organizations, many of which are the product of years or decades of mergers and acquisitions, right?
Yeah.
How do you take the 40-year-old legacy system and marry that up against the SaaS platform that you just procured 3 days ago, right?
Right. And you don't have time to go do a re-platform of that other system. It's like, no, I need to use the data I have now to make these decisions. Because I think, there's a lot of cost-cutting components. There's a lot of stuff moving in the marketplace between the mergers, the regulatory pressure. Like, there is a lot of pressure on the telecom companies here.
I think that's absolutely right. And the executives we're talking to, right, whether it's a CFO, a CIO, they're tired of, I think, hearing some of those promises from software vendors, from consultants, et cetera, right? Hey, 3 years from now, you're going to see some set of benefits. They want to see benefits now, right?
Yes.
And they want to be realizing these things gradually. And so these use cases that we're describing, right, are things that are real, right?
Yeah.
And things that you can see that benefit over time versus some long pushed out kind of project timeline. We actually recently had a partner talk at AIPCon, and they talked about the hundreds of different systems that we've connected to across their telecom business.
Yeah.
And to your point, like it's an arduous process. If you're just going to do it for the sake of that, you might as well be realizing benefits along the way, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's fundamentally different as well about the Palantir approach, right? Is let's start with use cases, not some IT roadmap.
Well, I think the important part is as you build the workflows and the feedback loops, you're building durable mechanisms. As the models progress over time, if the model's twice as good tomorrow, great. Our automations will just get twice as good, right? And I think that's the beauty of what we're building here is really these durable products for people that to run their business, not just these kind of commodity LLMs, right?
100%. And a lot of it, I think, is as we look at the AI hype cycle, right? And where we are, so much has been about the models. And I think what people are finally seeing, the companies that we work with, the partners, they are focused on the outcomes, right? And they don't care that this next new model is X% better than this other one on some set of benchmarks.
Yes.
They care about the business impacts, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what's exciting for me to be aligned around, right?
Yeah, and I think that's, the outcome driven versus a benchmark driven is such a difference in the marketplace.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit a nail on the head, right? So many software vendors are going to come in and say, hey, we've got this perfect problem solved. Yeah. And try to convince you the CIO or you some business person that this should be your problem too. And fundamentally, that's not how we operate. Right? Yeah. It's starting with what is the business problem? What is that issue that you're facing? And then working backwards to deploy our software against that. And a lot of times it is informed by the past work that we've done. In some cases, we've seen use cases multiple times. But a lot of times it's how do we align our software around the business impact that it's going to drive.
Yeah, that is great. Like I think the penchant for people to buy packaged software for each one, you just end up in this very fragmented. I did a video on this called like Tower of Babel, right? It was very much you end up with all these different point solutions. Whether you bought them or you built them, you still have this very fragmented business. And I think the connected company you were talking about is like such an important point for people to get because it's what they want. But how do I get there
And I think a lot of it, right, it actually becomes faster, right? When you have these point solutions that have been integrated in an ontology to now I have a representation of my customer. I have one of my field tech. I have one of all these disparate pieces of network equipment, sensor data, etc. That next use case just becomes that much easier to be able to implement.
Well, I think actually that's a super important point as well, is like the next use case isn't another piece of packaged software. The next use case you can literally build even quicker because you already have 50% of the ontology built, and you can then build on that the next use case versus, I got to go implement and integrate a whole nother solution over here for this thing. And I think that flywheel effect that each use case actually gets faster in Palantir is something that amazes me. I saw that as a customer, and I think when people get that after the second, third, and fourth use case, and they're like, holy cow, I'm executing in weeks. Like, that's exciting. Are there fun stories or things that you've heard where customers get super excited about what they did?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking one that we just did back in November, right? Mm-hmm. We took a series of disparate data sources from across this business, different user groups, brought them under one roof. We actually went to our office out in Denver, and then we're able to build this use case that took a process that took them 6 months down to hours, right? It was a process we were able to fully automate there.
Oh, wow. Okay. So 6 month long manual process into fully automated working prototype in 3 days. Like, that's pretty cool. I think that's like such a testament to building and like the culture that we have with forward deployed engineers going on site, feeling the customer's pain, sitting in the room while it's uncomfortable is really like the Palantir way, right?
It absolutely is, right? And I think the companies that we work with, right, for giving us that opportunity to go meet the experts, right?
Yeah.
Us going parachuting in, talking to the 30-year veteran, right? We learn so much and we pick up so much. And I think to your point, it's atypical for a software company to maybe work that way.
Yeah. Well, it's because that 30-year veteran of the company is truly an expert. But that one person can only do so much, and they're limited by the systems around them. And so I think really where it probably is exciting for those users is, oh my gosh, we can scale this knowledge. They can get 10 times, 100 times things more done because essentially you're giving them like the superpowers to a bunch more people. You're automating it so that expert can focus on the expert level stuff, right?
That's so true, right? And you hit it with the 10x comment, right?
Yeah.
There's 10x software engineers, but there should be 10x NOC engineers. Yes. There should be 10x network planners. There should be 10x financial analysts, right? And so much of this is that wasted time, right? That's spent pulling data from different systems, right? That's spent reviewing things that don't actually require the expert opinion. Yes. Why don't you, Chad, be able to focus on the expert things that really excite you about your job too, right?
Yeah.
That inspire you.
Yeah, which brings up an interesting point too, because there's a lot of change management, like getting people to trust it. I think that's where like a lot of I've seen failed software projects is like I built something kind of cool, but then the users didn't buy in because I built it in isolation. I think that's the other value add that we bring is we build it with your 10x engineer or whoever that expert is in your business, and we're building it for them, with them, and now they are the change agent that drives that adoption. I think that's the other key point of how we build, right?
And that ownership that those individuals feel is, I think, really inspiring, right? It's exciting I'm thinking of a use case we built, an invoice auditing tool, right? Where we worked with these business analysts who just couldn't get through all of these invoices they wanted to review each day. To be able to let them attack 100 times the amount of volume and then be able to share those results, right? So that, hey, instead of going through the tens of thousands of dollars, they're able to get to millions of dollars, scale their impact across the business. I mean, that's a great news story for them to be telling too.
Oh, yeah. And that I helped build this tool. I helped create this impact. And so that's really the focus is on empowering them to drive the decisions in a production system. Like all of that together is really the magic sauce, not just the software. It's the people, process, technology all coming together.
100%.
Thanks for coming to Arkansas and having the conversation. Really enjoyed it, Alex.
Awesome. Thanks, Chad.